more like this. The bigger dots are more interesting, so you do a bit of pruning that we mentioned, the small dots at the bottom are the UK people, and you end up with a relationship that looks a little bit more like this. So the big dots are the major players. They're all interconnected around the edge and connected between themselves, and then they got people that they connect to in the middle. So the idea here is that you can then start drilling down on these people and exploring further. So you'd get interesting Facebook updates like 7K in 5 days, which was kind of interesting. You know, and looking through the profiles, it's easy to see that these guys are, you know, living a high life out there in Nigeria, and who can blame them with fast money and fast chicks and stuff like that. They had lots of photos, a little bit like this one. That's not actually a PS3, but you know, you get the idea, on their wall posts and what have you, and they're very keen on sharing their, you know, their wins, let's say. Lots of pictures of Western Union, celebrating with champagne and what have you. More screenshots of stuff on Western Union. Seems to be popular with Nigerians, Nigerian scammers, I should say, because, you know, that wouldn't be fair on the rest. So it's compelling. Why do they do it? You can see that they can make an awful lot of money here, $700 to $6,000. This was a Facebook profile as well. A wall post, yeah, let's go scam more people. These guys are communicating on Facebook very openly, and you know, communicating with each other. So how about something a little bit more dodgy? Well, there were pictures a little bit like this, although not like this, because if you Google, you know, a duffel bag with money, then you'll see where I got the image from. But there were similar images, let's say. Some of the images might have looked a little bit more like this. So, you know, they got all of this money. It's all publicly available. You can go and check that out quite easily on their Facebook profiles. More wealth. So then things got a little bit more dodgy, and that's when I thought, well, actually, maybe I'll stop digging around and just leave this up to the professionals. They had pictures of guns, not this gun, but they had pictures of guns with the people who were in their, you know, sort of Facebook profile, so you could see names and faces, stuff like that. I was like, oh, that looks a bit serious. So obvious question in my mind was, well, are there links with terror? So I did some digging around, and if you're interested in Nigerian crime, a really interesting company, Ultrascan Advanced Global International, based out of Amsterdam. They do a lot of research into this sort of thing, got a lot of data on it, and they've got a 2009 report about scamming. Go and check it out. But they did actually identify direct relationships between 419 advanced fee frauds and you know, and terror. Before there was only indirect sort of slipstream money, and now there's, you know, direct links. So, okay, the true identity of our scammer. Let's say I was to set up an email address that was similar to the person who obtained the laptop in the UK. Send out a note saying, hey, you know, this is Alice. This is my new email address. Would you believe it? Facebook's acting weird. Can you just send me a wall post? Because I figured that, you know, with all of the people that she was friends with, there'd be one of them would be our man, Larry the cable guy. So to my great surprise, he's like, yeah, sure. So sent a message back saying, thanks, hot stuff. Why not? And he then said, as a bonus, say hi to, you know, XXXXX. I was like, oh, bonus, because I've seen pictures of Alice with XXXXX. I didn't know they were together. The conversation continued a little bit more, and it seemed like he does more of the dealing with XXS than you know, than with this Alice. So that was a bonus, really. So got a Facebook update like this, which was very similar to this, but you know, but not this. I was amazed. I was like, wow, that worked. Brilliant. So now we've got some more connections. You've got a connection now between Alice and the scammer in Nigeria, which we didn't have before. So this was, of course, interesting to the police, who, you know, had anecdotal evidence or had an idea that this was happening, but didn't have anything to actually tie it all, you know, together. So then they had this link with this UK scammer, who was also, you know, closely related to Alice. And so what that actually happened is you've got, well, let me show you on the next slide really. You've got scammer networks, so organised slightly. You've got 62 scammer networks in the UK alone, according to the Ultrascan International 419 report. And what they have is essentially a bunch of like cells in different countries who will then work with local people and use them as places where they, sort of ship their goods to, valid addresses, and they'll just, use these people and then burn them out and get more people. That's kind of how it works. Spain's got the highest number of scammer networks with 72, and the USA are trailing with 53, but don't feel bad about that, folks from the USA, because you've got more than double the amount of people than anybody else. You've got about 2,300 people make up those 53 sort of crime cells. So places with lots of Nigerian university societies, things like that, probably great places for targeting people. You've got 916 of these around the world, 16,000 members, and they're raking about $9.3 billion in 2009, so it's big business. People are falling for it all the time, and there's all sorts of different scams. Romance scams, people fall for that a lot, cars, that kind of thing. So, okay, so you've got the scammer, you've got the person that this went to in the UK, you've got a whole bunch of information. The police can't really do anything because they've got stuff that they're seeing on Facebook and difficult to prosecute and not so interested in, the people at the end. So how do you get your money back, basically? Well, what you could do, I suppose, hypothetically, is you could pile all of the information that you found and put it in a blog post, and also create maybe a Facebook fan site and encourage all of their friends to join. And then mention that, email the scammers and say, hey, just to let you know, I set this up, and, in a couple of days' time or something, Google will have indexed this and you'll never get rid of it very easily. You could do that, right, hypothetically. And then you could follow up with a call. I don't know about the US, but in the UK you can just buy SIM cards with cash and agree some amicable terms, that could work. So, okay, yeah, we want to give you some money back. It's been a little misunderstanding. That's, how do you get the scammers' dollars into your bank? Well, cash obviously is going to be tricky, because where are you going to exchange the cash? Oh yeah, meet me here. Yeah, just be me, and don't bring anybody else, especially not those people with guns, because they kind of scare me. And then bank. Well, what do you do with the bank? Give them your bank account details. Not so smart, probably. PayPal, again, that would be linked to an individual, not a great idea. Western Union, you're going to have to give them a name or a fake ID or something, not a great idea. Probably the only one on that list that would make any sense if you were to do it, which I must stress I didn't, would be Amazon gift certificates, because you can get them then emailed to like just an email address. Nobody's any the wiser. Job done. You're limited to, what is it, $500 or something like that. That'd probably be the only way you'd go to a scammer and say, actually, here's how I'd like my money back. Or you could say, just go to the police and hand back the laptop. We don't have the laptop. So, health warnings. I wouldn't recommend do it or completely, anonymize this. If you are going to do it, you're limited to, generally to public information. Read the terms of service, because Facebook are very tight on that. A wealth of information, but they're very tight. So really, law enforcement, or if you're in a corporation, go through legitimate channels. Friend up with your own account at your own risk. You'd need to be nuts to do that, really. But then setting up a second account would also be a violation of terms of service, so you perhaps wouldn't want to do that either. So maybe you could convince another friend who just happens to live in the same house as you with a different name to do that. Work with law enforcement and keep on the right side of where things are at. And if you wanted to do any of that, you'd have to break terms of service. So So wrapping up the talk, mining data has got more accessible than ever before. Visualization can help you home in. That's the key point, really, because you might be sitting here thinking, well, I can do all this stuff anyway, but it's going to help you home in on interesting relationships. And finally, things like getting the metadata or named entity recognition, that can help you really classify information. A combination of those three is going to speed things up. So, like I say, it took me a couple of hours to get a bunch of friends, took a couple of hours to pull down a bunch of information, see where the interesting pictures were, go back, dive down into those links, keep building it up the network. Following these people, this is all on the on the CD, and I'll put it on the website as well. If you're into Maltego, Perturba, obviously Singe, Mubix, and Carnal Ownage, these guys are pretty into Maltego. Social network folks, Tom Easton, he's not here. DigiNinja, those guys did Social Zombies. The Harmony guy I mentioned, he did like a month of Facebook vulnerabilities last year, and social media security. Those are great people to follow and to check out. And then data mining, visualization. You've got Damien Cortese. He's the guy that does Rowfeeder and what have you. You've got Neil Codner. I don't know if anybody has ever used Twitter and put in anything that's mentioned Full Metal Jacket. Well, if you do that, then you get the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket coming back at you with some aggressive language, and made me laugh actually out loud. And he's the guy behind that and does a bunch of other data mining stuff. And then Pete Warden, the guy who nearly got served by Facebook and escaped that by the skin of his teeth. Some great stuff there. So that's about all I've got to say about that, except that I've got a signed Tony Hawk skateboard here, and I don't want to take it home. I don't know, how should I do this really? Hands up who's on Twitter here or has got the ability to get on Twitter.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Should I give it him for asking nicely? What do you think?
Yeah, what the hell?
What was that? Show of hands for who says yeah, give it him. So that's like 3. I'll hide it somewhere. You'll have to follow me at the Sugmeister on Twitter. Yeah, I'll hide it somewhere. It's going today. I'll tweet it out at some point in the next couple of hours, and have at it, people. Thanks, and any questions?